Before we get started, I just want to say a big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video.
What's up guys, in today's video I'm going to take you through some of the basics which you need to be aware of whenever you're using the cable crossover machine. So I'm going to take you through a number of common exercises which people do and the most important things you need to be aware of when performing these exercises. So when it comes to doing a single arm tricep extension, this is the fully shortened part of the tricep, this is the fully lengthened part. Okay, so this movement here is easy, this movement here is quite easy. Okay, relative to this position here, this is the hardest point in the movement. But when we do this exercise in this setup, you're missing out on training or overloading the shortened part of the tricep, which is here, and the lengthened part. If we really wanted to overload the shortened position of the tricep, then we need to set ourselves up so that the cable is pretty much going to be pointing 90 degrees to the forearm when we're in this position. So what we need to do is step back a bit and we need to lower the attachment setting. Step back even more. Now, I can barely even do this. This is now the hardest point in the movement. As you can see, it's almost 90 degrees to my forearm. This point here, nothing's happening, okay? There's barely any resistance at all. But it gets extremely hard here. This probably goes to show that I'm quite weak or weaker in the shortened range in comparison to everything else. To the point where I probably need to lighten the weight. Okay? So when doing this exercise, yeah, you're not going to be going through the full range of motion because obviously you can't get yourself into the lengthened range when you set up this way, but that doesn't matter. Okay? We're just going to be working the shortened range with a restricted range of motion. If I wanted to overload the muscle in the lengthened position, so that's this position here, triceps fully lengthened, you would need to change the angle of your torso quite a bit, okay? So now, right here, this is the point which is the hardest, okay? Here is almost like there's no resistance at all because the cable's pulling in the same direction where my forearm is pointing, or in the opposite direction, should I say. The same principles apply whenever you're doing a lateral raise with the crossover machine. So most people will typically have it set up at the bottom, like this. They'll stand to the side and lift up. Okay, so with this typical setup right here, we're going to be overloading the mid-range, which is here, okay? The cable is pulling 90 degrees to my forearm. Okay, so if we really wanted to overload the shortened range of the movement, if we were using this arm, I would basically turn around. But I'll show you here, for example, I would stand like this. And now this is the hardest point in the movement right here. Obviously, once again, I'm not really going to go through a full range of motion because this movement here is completely pointless because there's no resistance at all. So I'm going to do maybe half a rep, 2/3 of a rep, and just work in this position here, okay? But this is mimicking the same strength curve of when you're doing dumbbell side raises. Because whenever you use a dumbbell, because of gravity, this is the hardest point in the movement. So I wouldn't really do the cables in this kind of framework. I would overload the mid-range, which is going to be here, and I would overload the lengthened part of the movement. In order to do that, I would probably lift the cable up ever so slightly, and I'm going to stand a lot further away. Okay? I'll probably even lift the cable higher. There we go. Now this is it's just hard holding this position. Okay? This is now the hardest point in the movement when doing a cable raise. So again, I'd only go through a restricted range of motion because up here, not that much resistance. So I go down to here, pull up to about here, 2/3 of the range, and then back down. Okay, so really overloading this portion of the movement. Now, I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way to do these exercises. They're perfectly fine doing them probably the way you've been doing them before, but you have to have an understanding of where these forces are being applied at different points in the movement, okay? Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're only really working the muscle in that one position, okay, that one range. So you're potentially missing out on strengthening it and building the muscle and training it at the other end of the spectrum, okay, so maybe the shortened position or maybe the lengthened position, okay. And the reason why you want to vary it from time to time is that that is what's going to build a fully well-developed muscle, okay, and it's also going to help you get stronger over time, because if you can get stronger at all points within the strength curve, then this should, in theory, help you to become stronger when doing different exercises with the same muscle, and potentially when it comes to you doing completely separate exercises, maybe the pushing or the pulling, whatever it might be. Big shout out once again to Squarespace for supporting these videos. I've had my website up and running on Squarespace for over a year now, and I couldn't be happier. In a time where you need to know code or you've got to pay people loads of money to build a website, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to do it myself, and I wanted it to be as simple as possible, and it was. Squarespace is a really nice option for people either starting their own businesses, blogs, or just getting their own site for whatever it might be. If you go to squarespace.com/Mike Thurston, you can get a free trial and 10% off your first purchase.